Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm glad you're here today. We're about to start a discussion on Mega Goal 3.1, focusing on Unit 6, the gender divide. This will be an engaging session where we listen, learn, and discuss important issues related to gender differences and equality. Over the next few minutes, we'll explore key ideas and share perspectives. So let's get started and make this a meaningful conversation. Today, I will be discussing the lesson objectives for our session. First, we aim to differentiate between the key concepts, which is fundamental to understanding the material. Then, we will focus on answering comprehension questions about the studies correctly, helping us grasp the core ideas. Next, we'll explore personal thoughts about each gender based on character, encouraging us to reflect on individual traits. Additionally, we'll compare genders through true or false questions, which will test our understanding of the differences. By the end of this, you'll be able to give accurate responses and develop a clearer understanding of the subject. These objectives tie into our overall goal of gaining a deeper insight into gender studies and improving critical thinking skills. Today, we're going to explore a fun activity that helps us understand how words and ideas can be connected through images and letters. On this slide, you see a few pictures: a robot, an eye, a dolphin, a nurse, eggs, and a giraffe. I want you to look at each picture carefully and think about what you see. First, what do you see in the picture of the robot? Then the eye. Next, the dolphin. After that, the nurse. Then eggs. And finally, the giraffe. Now, here's the interesting part. We will take the first letter of each of these words: R for robot, E for eye, D for dolphin, N for nurse, E for eggs, and G for giraffe. When we put those letters together, they spell out a word or a topic that is important for our unit. This activity is a warm-up to get us thinking about how different things can be connected through their initial sounds or letters. It also helps us prepare for the main ideas we'll be discussing today. So, keep in mind, each picture and its first letter will guide us toward understanding our main topic: divide. Now, let's look at some common terms related to gender. When we talk about female, we're referring to women and girls. On the other hand, male refers to men and boys. These words help us distinguish between different genders based on biological sex. The term gender itself is often used to describe the social and cultural roles, behaviors, and expectations associated with being male or female. It's important to understand that gender isn't just about biology. It also involves how society perceives and assigns roles to different sexes. So, do you know the meaning of gender? It's a key concept because it helps us understand identity, equality, and social dynamics. Throughout this presentation, we'll explore how gender influences our lives and how we can work toward greater understanding and fairness. So, what do you think this unit will be about? Well, as we look at the differences between men and women, it's important to understand that these distinctions can influence many aspects of our lives. We'll explore how biological, psychological, and social factors play a role in shaping behaviors and perspectives. This is not just about stereotypes. It's about recognizing the diverse ways people experience the world. By understanding these differences, we can foster better communication, empathy, and collaboration. Ultimately, this ties into our overall goal of promoting understanding and respect in diverse environments. So, let's keep an open mind and see what insights we can gain from this discussion. Certainly, on this slide, I want to share my personal perspective. I believe that the key points here really highlight the importance of understanding the core concepts thoroughly. When we approach these topics with an open mind, it becomes easier to see how they connect to the bigger picture of our overall theme. For me, it's about recognizing the significance of these ideas in shaping effective strategies and making informed decisions. By emphasizing these points, I hope to illustrate that mastering these fundamentals is essential for driving meaningful progress. Ultimately, it's about seeing the connections and applying this knowledge practically to create real impact. So let's talk about what a stereotype really is. Essentially, it's a mistaken belief or idea that many people have about a particular group or thing. These beliefs are often based on how someone looks on the outside, like their appearance, their background, or other superficial traits. The tricky part is that these ideas are usually untrue or unfair. They might seem simple or obvious, but they can lead to misunderstandings and unfair judgments. Understanding stereotypes is important because they tie into our overall theme of how perceptions can be misleading. Recognizing that these beliefs are often based on surface-level impressions helps us see the importance of looking beyond appearances and getting to know the real person or situation. So, next time you catch yourself making assumptions, remember, stereotypes are often just inaccurate shortcuts that don't reflect the true complexity of individuals or groups. Now, let's talk about the kinds of situations where women tend to speak more. When we're in informal settings, for example, social gatherings with friends or family, women often feel more comfortable expressing themselves openly. These environments are less structured and more relaxed, which encourages more verbal sharing. In casual conversations, women might share stories, give opinions, or simply engage in more back-and-forth dialogue. It's interesting because these settings contrast with formal or professional environments, where speaking tends to be more reserved or constrained. Understanding this helps us see how context influences communication styles. In informal situations, the social norms are different, and women generally feel freer to express their thoughts more extensively. This aligns with the broader theme of how environment shapes our communication behaviors. So, one of the reasons women tend to worry more than men is related to the production of a specific brain chemical called COMT. Now, COMT plays a crucial role in controlling anxiety levels. Interestingly, women's brains produce less of this chemical compared to men's brains. This lower production means that women often have a reduced capacity to regulate anxiety effectively. As a result, they may be more prone to feelings of worry or stress. This biochemical difference helps us understand some of the emotional and psychological patterns we observe between genders. Connecting this to our overall theme, it highlights how biological factors can influence behavior and mental health in subtle but meaningful ways. Let's explore some interesting differences in lying patterns between men and women. Generally, men tend to lie to make themselves look more impressive, perhaps to boost their status or confidence in social situations. On the other hand, women often lie to protect others' feelings, aiming to maintain harmony and avoid conflict. Now, thinking about what women tend to lie about, it could be small things like their appearance, how they feel, or their opinions, just to keep someone else from feeling hurt or uncomfortable. For men, the lies might revolve around achievements, skills, or experiences, often to enhance their image or gain respect. Understanding these tendencies helps us see how different motivations influence the way people communicate and deceive. It ties back to the bigger picture of how social and emotional factors shape our behavior, especially in the context of trust and honesty. It is possible that women are better at keeping their thoughts and imaginations active. This idea comes from observations that women often maintain a more vivid and ongoing mental dialogue or visualization. Now, you might wonder what could explain this difference, especially when it comes to handling repetitive tasks. Well, one hypothesis is that women may naturally engage more in sustained mental activity, which helps them stay focused and adaptable even when routines become monotonous. This ability to keep their thoughts active could be a key factor in how they manage repetitive work more effectively than men. Throughout our discussion, we've seen how mental flexibility and active imagination play crucial roles in productivity and problem-solving. So, understanding these differences not only sheds light on cognitive diversity, but also helps us appreciate different strengths in various contexts. So, why do women tend to have a lower tolerance for pain? Well, a big part of it comes down to their body chemistry. You see, hormonal differences, especially involving estrogen and progesterone, can influence how pain is perceived and processed. These hormones can modulate the activity of pain pathways in the brain and nervous system. Additionally, women's bodies produce different levels of natural pain relievers, which can affect their overall pain tolerance. Understanding these biological factors helps us see that pain perception isn't just about the physical injury, but also deeply connected to our body chemistry. This ties back to our broader discussion on how biological and psychological factors shape individual health experiences. Women outlive men all around the world, and sometimes by as much as 10 years on average. It's a consistent pattern across different countries and cultures. So the key question here is, which gender actually has the longer life expectancy? Well, the answer is women generally live longer than men. This difference in life expectancy is a fascinating aspect of global health trends. It highlights how biological, social, and behavioral factors all play a role in shaping these outcomes. Understanding these disparities is important because it connects to the broader themes of health equity and how targeted interventions can help improve longevity for everyone. Let's take a closer look at some of the key factors that influence behavior and how they can sometimes reinforce stereotypes. First, gender plays a significant role in shaping expectations and social norms, which can impact how individuals express themselves and are perceived by others. Next, the word tedious might remind us of tasks or routines that feel repetitive and uninspiring, often leading to feelings of frustration or boredom. This connects to the idea of repetitive behaviors, which can sometimes be a way for people to cope with anxiety or restlessness. Speaking of temperament, this refers to the innate personality traits that influence how someone reacts to different situations, whether they're more calm or more impulsive. When we talk about capacity, we're referring to an individual's ability to handle stress or complex tasks, which varies from person to person. Intensity can describe the degree of emotional response someone has to a situation. Some react strongly, others more mildly. Anxiety, on the other hand, is a common emotional experience that can drive behaviors that are often misunderstood or stereotyped, especially when someone appears restless or overly anxious. All of these elements, whether it's temperament, capacity, intensity, or anxiety, can contribute to behaviors that are perceived as repetitive or stereotypical. It's important to recognize that these traits are often natural and context-dependent, and understanding them helps us move beyond stereotypes to see individuals more clearly. Women tend to speak more in informal settings, which can reflect their comfort level and social habits. It's interesting to see how their communication style often differs from men's, especially in relaxed environments. Research also shows that women's brains produce less of a chemical that controls anxiety compared to men's brains. This might contribute to differences in how men and women handle stress and emotional situations. When it comes to honesty, women often lie to avoid hurting someone's feelings, valuing harmony and kindness. Men, on the other hand, are more likely to lie to boost their own image or impress others. These differences reveal a lot about social and emotional priorities. Another fascinating point is that women may be better at keeping their thoughts and imaginations active. This suggests they might have a stronger ability to visualize or think creatively, which plays into many aspects of life and problem solving. Lastly, women generally have a longer life expectancy than men. In the US, for example, women live about 79 years on average, while men live around 72. This gap highlights some biological and social factors that influence health and longevity, which ties back to the overall theme of gender differences and their implications. Now, let's look at some common family roles and how they change when we switch from masculine to feminine forms. Starting with actress and actor, you'll notice that actress is the feminine form of actor. Similarly, for wife, the masculine counterpart is husband. Moving to daughter and son, again, these are gender-specific terms that correspond directly to each other. When we consider aunt and uncle, the pattern continues, the feminine form is aunt, and the masculine is uncle. Next, mother and father. These are fundamental family terms, with mother being the feminine version and father the masculine. Finally, we have queen and king. Queen is the female monarch and king is the male monarch. Overall, these pairs highlight how many family and role-related words have distinct feminine and masculine forms. Recognizing these helps us understand gender distinctions in language, which ties back to the broader theme of gender roles and language use. It's important to see how language reflects societal perceptions of gender, and being aware of these terms can help us communicate more accurately and respectfully. Let's take a moment to look at the words on this slide and understand their feminine forms. We have aunt, wife, princess, sister, and queen. These are all familiar terms that describe female family members or titles. Now, when we talk about their feminine forms, it's quite straightforward. For example, aunt remains aunt because it already refers to a female relative. The same goes for wife, which is inherently feminine, so no change is needed there. Moving on, princess is already a feminine noun, but it's interesting to note that its masculine counterpart would be prince. This highlights how many titles or roles have specific gendered forms. For sister, the feminine form is, of course, sister itself, and the masculine equivalent would be brother. Finally, queen is a feminine title, and its masculine counterpart is king. Recognizing these gendered forms helps us understand how language reflects social roles and relationships. Connecting this to the overall theme, understanding these forms is essential for effective communication and cultural awareness, especially when discussing family roles or historical titles. It also emphasizes the importance of gender-specific language in various contexts. All right, for today's last slide, let's look at the workbook, page 279, where you'll find exercises A and B. These are designed as practical applications of what we've covered. I encourage you to complete these exercises as homework because they're a great way to reinforce your understanding. Remember, practicing these concepts is key to mastering them. So, take your time, review the material, and apply what you've learned in these exercises. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Thanks for being engaged throughout this presentation, and I look forward to seeing your progress.